I find that Reiki is one of those things that's definitely easier to feel than to explain, but I'm going to try. I've been practicing it for over a decade now, and still just really find that to be true. I can tell you what it is, I can tell you what happens in a session, what the research is starting to show, and where it comes from, and I'll do all of that. But there's this little part of it that lives outside of language. I think a part that we understand best just by experiencing it. And I just want to say that honestly at the start, I'm going to do my best to put words to something that doesn't always want words and the explanation. So I'll invite you to try and hold it and see it in that way too, with a little curiosity and without everything needing to be fully pinned down and in its specific box. So let's just talk about what Reiki actually is. The word itself gives us a great place to start. Reiki comes from two Japanese words, rei, which means universal, and ki, which means life force energy, that energy that animates everything around us. If you've spent some time in the yoga world, you've probably been introduced to this already. Ki is the same idea of prana, and in Chinese traditions, it's qi. Almost every culture has a word for this, that vital energy that runs through us and around us. I think almost every culture really except our own. Western languages don't always have a clean word for it, which is part of why Reiki can feel hard to describe in English. We're trying to explain something that our language never quite actually named. So when we say Reiki, we're talking about working with and supporting that vital life force energy and the movement of it. The Reiki practitioner acts as a channel for it, right? Offering it a way that can help the body settle into its own ability to rest and restore. That's the simple version. But Reiki also lives a little bit more in this in-between space. Part of it can be talked about in the language of the nervous system, of rest, of measurable science. And the other part of it lives in this realm of energy and intuition. And that's the part that doesn't always have specific words. But I hold both of those things to be true, each really standing firmly on their own. And each is an important part of how we use and understand Reiki. To me, that matters because I don't think it has to be one or the other, right? All energy and mystery, or simply the science of Reiki and the placebo effect. But I think it's really both of them that tell the whole story about it. There's a wonderful growing body of research on Reiki, most of it around relaxation and the stress response. And I love the science. I find it really fascinating. I'm not going to go through all of it here because I think it deserves a little bit more time. And so I'm going to dig into that in the next video in the series and just talk a little bit about what the studies are showing and where the research is still a little bit thin. But for now, let's say this, right? The science is a part of the picture, and so is that part that you can really just feel. And both can be true at once. Okay, let's back up for a second and talk a little bit about the history of Reiki. Reiki, as we practice it today, traces back to a man named Mikao Usui in early 20th century Japan. So in the big picture, this is still a newer healing modality when we compare it to something like yoga, Ayurveda, traditional Chinese medicine. The story is that Usui underwent this long period of fasting and meditation, and then the practice of Reiki, including the original symbols, came to him through that experience. And then from there, he began to teach it and share it with others around in Japan. One of his students, Chujiro Hayashi, he really refined the training process and how it began to be passed on. And then it was one of his students, a woman named Hawayo Takata, who carried it from Japan to the West, to Hawaii, where it really began to weave its way a little bit more into our mainstream. From those roots is where Reiki branched into all of the different lineages that we have today. If you look into trainings, you'll find a lot of variation now, and nearly all of it goes back to that, to Usui. And I share this not as a timeline or something you have to memorize, but because I think it really matters to honor the lineage, the tradition, and the people who carried this practice forward so that we're able to now give it and receive it. We can talk about it because someone generations back kept it alive, trained other people to do the same. Again, something we can dive into a little bit deeper, but I wanted to share where it comes from. And then let's also talk a little bit about what happens during a Reiki session, because that's a question that comes up for a lot of people who are curious and want to start receiving Reiki as that first introduction to it. If you've never had a Reiki session, you might be picturing something that's much more mystical than it usually is. In some ways, it can really be quite simple. You meet your practitioner, you stay fully clothed, you lie down, usually on something like a massage table, and you get to lie and rest. The practitioner places their hands lightly on or just above the body, and they usually move through a series of hand placements or positions all around different places within your body, your head, torso, legs, all of the places. It's really quiet and still. And I want you to think about this as the practitioner isn't the source of anything, they're the channel. The energy moves through them, not from them. And being a Reiki practitioner, part of that is simply allowing that to happen. When you're receiving, what you might notice during a session can vary so much person to person and even session to session. Some people feel warmth, this lovely kind of tingling or deep relaxation. Sometimes there's emotions, energy that rise up. Sometimes we don't feel a lot in the moment, but those benefits really settle in later. And all of those experiences are valid. There's no one right way to receive or feel Reiki. Just because we don't have any profound experiences in the moment doesn't mean it's not working. Mostly what people report is just that they feel deeply, deeply relaxed, like a full reset for the nervous system. And it's there where our bodies can really tap into that innate capacity to heal. And receiving a Reiki session is usually how most people are introduced to it. But if you do decide to train, to go on and become attuned to Reiki, it can start to show up in so many ways. You can offer it to yourself, right? Your own hands, your own body, as a form of healing, self-nourishment. That self-practice, again, is a whole path of its own. So it's one we'll continue to dive into because I think it's so beneficial for Reiki practitioners. You'll see that Reiki weaves into so many other healing modalities also. We'll see it alongside yoga, body work, also nursing, hospice care, recovery, anywhere someone is holding space for another person, Reiki can tend to fit in there really naturally. And then there's also this way of using Reiki in the everyday, and it's what we don't always expect. Once you're attuned to it, Reiki can weave its way into the ordinary things. Sometimes I'll offer Reiki to my food before I eat, or to my car before a long drive, to a difficult conversation you know you're going to have. And those might sound interesting at first, but I think it points to something important about what Reiki is. It isn't only for these like sacred, set apart moments. It's a way of bringing a little bit more presence, energy, light, and care to whatever it is that we're already doing. For all the words we've tried to put around it, the history, the energy, the sessions, that's what it really comes down to, I think, is the presence. Reiki is this way of bringing attention and care to anything that's in front of us. Right? Sometimes this is a very formal, sacred session. Sometimes it's our intention, a moment of stillness, a practice for ourselves. And that it's at its heart, Reiki is love that we can give and receive. So hopefully this helped to start to explain a little bit about what we can't always explain. And if you're curious and this resonated a bit with you, we're going to start this whole series on what Reiki is, the symbols, the history, how to practice it for ourselves. So we can just dive a little bit more into all of the different layers. And I'd love to have you along just to listen and learn with me.